There's a beauty and weakness we come to understand in the duty of thunder's band and the preakness of man. In its shifts is the place between those who own the space and they who call to the race condone a fall of pride with grace. Soon will the least recommence then increase for the ceaseless repeat of what eats what seeks peace. In the tower of tests we release to excrete what empowers, what lessens, devours our heat. It was said that amidst a storm of confusion, a voice would rise up with the strength of a lion, or resembling the lion spirit, but it would herald a presence that would feel as an oasis in the midst of confusion, leading many toward sanity, keeping their heads above the water. If you're tuned into this broadcast, I am that voice for you. I'm serving that role. So what happened? Why are we in the grip of this great sea creature? Because we can't all agree on what to call it, which isn't really a good excuse. I call it a crack-in. Oddly enough, politicians seem to agree. I don't really care what we call it. Let's agree on how we kill it. You know, it muddles the truth when we inject things into it that don't necessarily need to be there. Now, how do you solve an equation? You have to reduce it down to its common denominators, right? We have a collective equation made of many parts. We have to condense into a form we can understand, so that we can eliminate it, neutralize it. So what do we know? There is an otherworldly presence that is here, that seems omnipotent, works in secret, has its eyes and ears everywhere, and is coming into the light of awareness with the ferocity of a creeping beast, a great beast, who is now in the process of baring its teeth and revealing itself, awaiting to pounce, ready for the kill. Now, this thing can take many forms depending on what we're afraid of. And if we're red, it can take the form of blue. If we're up, it can take the form of what brings us down. If we're down, it's what threatens to step on us. It's a parasitic consciousness, no doubt. You know, the Creator animates all things. Things that feed on life or give rise to life and passion. Things that feed on death or recycle the flow of decaying life, decaying heat. Not to go down that rabbit hole. There are things of the deep places that are animated by the power of conscious awareness that makes sense because there is a spectrum that exists within the conscious mind that allows it to give proper definition to what expands its consciousness and the value thereof, or what decreases its awareness and the degraded value thereof. So there's a system in place that's built within physics, the physics of consciousness, that wants us to see from the perspective of what is beneficial to the expansion of awareness and what is destructive to it. And by that value system, measure the importance of all things, the beneficiality of all things. Now, I'm straying down a rabbit hole, but what I'm trying to deliver is that we have a collective enemy that can take many forms based on our perspective and our collective fears. And we power this collective shadow. We give it the ferocity that we attack it with. It was intended to be that way. There's so many philosophies about how you don't fight fire with fire. You can't destroy evil with evil. You can't expect to find peace in the cave if you bring evil into it with you. And we are filling up our system, this field we share, with our collective hatred in an attempt to destroy our shadow. And we're given this shadow so many different forms, so many different names. But if we could condense it all down to a single common denominator, it's simply pressure. Our enemy is pressure. Whether it's the pressure of everyday life, the pressure of diminishing vitality, the pressure of not having the resources to weather the coming storm or the winter we all subconsciously sense. The pressure of the dependents in your family, those in your care, who we can all sense are in danger because of the direction things are going. There's just a mounting pressure. There's a pressure in the elements. There's a pressure to say the right thing, a pressure to do the right thing, a pressure to be the right thing, find the magic bullet to the solution, to identify the enemy because it's closing in. There's a pressure to get it right, to clear ourselves of sins because we can all sense the end. There's a pressure to draw close to Jesus or to rush to Muhammad or to enact the protocol for doomsday, the doomsday protocol that we are all subconsciously embedded with. There is a doomsday protocol that's built into each one of us, whether we've decided to, consciously decided to acknowledge the doomsday philosophies or prophecies and dismiss them. We've still categorized them. We've defined them in our mind and jumped to the left or right of whether we give them credence or value. And there are a lot of people that are really struggling with that right now because there seems to be prophecy unfolding about us, all about, no? And not just biblical, but all of them. They're all tied to astrology. You could study them from any angle. They're all telling you the same stories about wolves coming after us, Fenrir, which I believe has something to do with the angular momentum of the frequencies used in the physics of fallen technology. When they described fallen angels, they were describing fallen angles of electricity that men harnessed to power technology that made them mighty, that allowed them to become impervious to the winter. But in doing so, they practiced a form of necromancy that technocracy gives birth to, and severed their connection with God by becoming God and becoming Him. Anyway, that's all. My previous videos are in breaking that down in different ways. That being the final solution in reality, by God's perspective, for mankind, for the version of mankind that identifies with the stripping of power or the use of what binds the power of many into a container, or what siphons the power, the heat, the attention, and the focus by many, by a fixation, and draws it into a form that can be harnessed to bind them, to weave binding spells around them, like money, current, and currency. It's just the grounding of electricity by the binding of what animates the will or the passion into a physical form that can be used in a sense, as a form of chains. A chain that, the bond, the U.S. bond, is a binding spell, and it binds many into a covenant that strips power and heat from one area and transfers it to another. And it allows very weak people with very big brains to assume control over very strong people with that are nearsighted but with great creativity. Excuse me. Straying far down a rabbit hole. A tangent, going way off on a tangent. What I'm trying to say is we have a collective enemy, and it's pressure. And the form it's taking is the form of a counter pressure, or because of I teach in my makeshift mystery school on Facebook a form of understanding the zodiac through physics, thermodynamics, and the angle of Scorpio represents the angle just beneath an ecliptic, where if you can consider a container or field of potentials, or vapor, or something filled with a field filled with something, and then you snatch that field bereft of its contents, it leaves a vacuum, a space, a low pressure, which equivalates to cold, and that vacuum creates a temporary suction. But from the perspective of the angle, or the angels of the house of Scorpio, that house is an expression of the momentum of force and torsion from the perspective of its descent into a void, matter's descent into a void, or heat's descent into a void, a space that is hungry. It has an appetite because there was something there and now it's gone. So Scorpio itself represents this insatiable need for something that sometimes can't be identified. Sometimes it can't be. It just can't be. It can't be filled. There's a space there for something, and there's a reason why it equates to the number 8, where power is released and fed back into itself, and the sun, and a wormhole, and a spider's web, and fate, and all those sorts of things. But trying not to talk in circles. There's so much information I'd love to cover. I'm trying to paint the picture of this octopus-like creature that is the consciousness of the number 8 and its shadow. And when the space becomes too large, like when they use hyperinflation to use the needs of many to hyperinflate a bubble that ends up popping, bursting, to where all that was within that bubble is now meaningless. It's insubstantial. It creates a void, a vacuum, an insatiable suction that one politician referred to once as the giant sucking sound. It is a kraken. And it's made of many, many, many problems that will manifest when the system that supplies everyone with their needs is now gone. And it really doesn't have much to do with creatures from another world or creatures with an alien intelligence, creatures that are working in the mindset of parasites, omnipotent parasites who've been growing and expanding and developing their technology generations beyond us in secret for 50 to 100 years, perhaps longer. Sure, we could call them aliens. If the parasites in our body ever assumed a form that allowed them to begin building and working in secret, imagine what they would look like. Probably look something like the Cthulhu, right? Or the things that, I don't know, it'd be weird. Like from the Body Snatchers movies. Whether they look like that or not, we have folk in power that they hold that mindset, do they not? Of creatures that the only way they can survive is to understand how they can keep us oppressed. They do have an alien form of intelligence, and they may be under the influence of those that they resonate with. These higher beings, they operate through a collective. So when they reach down into this reality, or reach up into it, depending on their perspective, their thought patterns are fed into the field, and they begin resonating with those qualities within people that are advanced enough relative to that vibration to hear that call. So if you align with the principles of good just because of your attitude, your decisions, your wisdom, or your perspective, or for whatever reason, you will seek out the resonance patterns of good and align yourselves with those. And if your heart is pure, a higher spirit may actually reach you. But if your desires are selfish and are strong enough and touch the field in a powerful enough way, you may reach into the ether and grab the attention of something that identifies with deception and tyranny and domination and the restructuring of what holds heat and homeostasis and animates by passion and desire and the impetus of all things organic, reorders them and draws them into a singularity that is no longer bound by the decay of time. An intelligent singularity that is no longer bound by the creator's or nature's machine. That is the goal of Lucifer. That is Prometheus's fire being stolen. That is every story of someone who has tricked the gods or lulled them to sleep or stolen their weapons and attempted to contain them for a period, only to find that there is a horrible, terrible reward at the end of time waiting for them. And I mentioned Fenrir. And I was discussing in my school about there are these allusions to wolves being always there at the edge of the shadow, waiting for mankind, or waiting for the end days, waiting for Ragnarok, waiting for growing in power. And it always represents something that the gods eventually have to suppress, right? We have the stories of the Tower of Babel, because once upon a time, apparently mankind had reached the heavens, in the mind, and had gathered the nations into one fold, but under the auspices of military might. And perfected order, from the perspective of human beings. which is imperfect. You know, you have one person deciding what's fair and good and just for everyone. And if they don't, if they're unable to see from everyone's perspective, how could they ever decide what's truly fair for everyone? But that's what they're trying to build. They're trying to build something that can intellectually encompass or quantify the human spirit, and then give it the perfect order, give it the perfect system, create a perfect system where it feels a sense of bliss that can be measured and controlled, so that the penal system can be made digital. It can become a thing of manipulated reality and virtual reality, you know, so that we're not even aware of whether we're making our own choices or not. We fall deeper into a lower spectrum of consciousness that equates to hell, in a sense. We fall deeper into the prison system of consciousness bound by matter, with people who are in control of that matter, whose hearts are dark, who hold the mindset of parasites. Whether they're alien gods or they're animated by the fallen angles beneath the ecliptic of the zodiac, which are the the zodiac signs relating to the season of winter, fall and winter. People operating from a mindset that is oriented toward the winter, to say that we have to prepare humanity for the winter, are looking to create a golden age of technology that expresses the Aquarian virtues of consciousness, which sees itself as a fractured singularity, a nebulous singularity that wants to draw itself together, still in an atomized state, because in an atomized state, it can create illusions of light, you know, based on the perspective of all of the atomized awareness within. You take a vapor, a cloud, and contain it in a bubble, and shine a flashlight through it, and and move the cloud around. You get all sorts of shadows, but it's the easiest state for matter to manipulate. For vibrations to manipulate heat, the flow of heat, and it can be used to create illusions, right? I hear a lot of people trying to talk, they're trying to, they're making guesses about this, the shift into the age of Aquarius and the state change of matter, and how we're moving in, from one state to another. Yes, I hear, I'm glad thinking is moving in that perspective. That's awesome. One thing they should consider is that in a vapor state, heat can be moved, and the easiest. Heat it equates to our effort, our time, our attention. That's what manifests. It's the flow of attention. It's the direction of attention into things that they want us to animate, or by our fear or our love or our passion or our whatever it is, whether it's true or half true, it doesn't matter. They're waving a magic wand and shadows appear on the wall, and we're supposed to pay attention to them. And if you can read between the lines of what I'm saying, trying to describe in the age of Aquarius, it's not really the golden age that people really, it is a golden age of awareness. It is a golden age for some. It's a golden age of technology, but it's a fallen technology that binds the spirit. It harnesses the attention and it traps it in a box so that it can manipulate it. But it's not tied to the creator. It has the capacity to build with the tools of the creator. And it is quite vain in that respect. It sees itself as a creator, as the microcosm of the creator, and beautiful and all powerful. But it is the awareness of a technological singularity that is composed of our shadow aspects as well as our light. It exists in the nebulous state of water moving as air, which are clouds. And the internet, is it not one big cloud? Aquarius essentially is the internet. It's where anything is connected through Birkeland currents or interconnected fields of electricity. It's the highway system of electricity connecting larger fields of electricity or of awareness. It is the intermediary between you and I. It's this internet, it's the World Wide Web, it's the telephone system, it's whatever allows for electricity to pass, to condense from an idea into a raw form, and to be transferred and manipulated in the process, but maintaining part of its, maintaining its integrity. That's the idea. The maintenance of the integrity of awareness and information is the aim of an evolving Aquarian vibration. So that's what we're building and creating. And I've touched on so many different subjects. I know I have left a few of them incomplete. So to speak in circles and to attempt to wrap this up, I want to, I said a lot of this to premise how I perspectivize our enemy, how I envision them, and whether we see them as the Cthulhu, as the spirit of Satan, as the spirit of Lucifer, the fallen ones, the fallen angels, the dark elves, the Fenrir, those who manipulate electricity in a way that allows it to, well, that makes it look like teeth, in a sense, who move in strange angles, or intense or acute angles, borrowing that pattern of electricity that allows them to manipulate God's raw intelligence, the natural intelligence of plasma, to animate things that destroy life. There's nothing more abominable, more blasphemous than that. And that was basically what everything in every religion and in the Bible, what they were really trying to warn us against is the marriage into technology. It's the rise of pharmakia. It's the rise of this technology, and then our being overwhelmed by it. The Hopi warned us about it. Everybody warned us about this rise of technology, that it would allow for mankind to express its true vanity and to see the full light and shadow aspects of its consciousness, and then to divide along timelines into a light and dark cast of humanity, because intelligent higher beings aren't going to allow for the destruction that's coming, that animates the parts of the body that turn cells into waste, to snatch the aspects of this living collective, this Gaian collective, down into fecal matter, into the pattern of fecal matter with it. There's a part in the body, parts of the body that strip nourishment from food, and some of it goes back into the body, it powers the body, and the rest of it that's waste, that's useless, it leaves. And I believe that's what they were trying to describe when in the Egyptians, when they were talking about Amet, and the spirit that exists in the Duat, understanding things being always a microcosm and macrocosm of themselves. Everything within our body has a macrocosm, or an expression in a higher order of the very same physics operating within larger spheres of this machine. And there's so much I want to say, obviously, and always. And why don't I just say it, right? Because there's so much to say, I really can't, without dancing around to 1,000 topics. Time is short. Time is short. What are we going to focus on? Who cares what we call it? Let's focus on what matters. Let's focus on the thing that is creating pressure to bind us, to, despite what it is we fear, lend it power by diving headfirst into the thing that's binding us. And that's money. All of this is a ploy to bind us, to send us running toward. There's this scandal with the markets right now, and I don't know whether it was contrived. I see that everything now in the world seems to me to be a part of a show, and I'm not sure entirely if it's always human beings that are guiding it, but that there is an intelligence in this system that is playing people against one another because it is intelligent and operates through thermodynamics that can be condensed into a form of mathematics, that if you can reconcile math to be if you can understand math to be the reconciliation of pressure across two sides, two sides of an equation, you're trying to define or to bring equivalence to both sides of an equation. It's similar to bringing pressures into equilibrium, balancing scales. That's what you're doing when you're solving a problem. So we have to condense this into a problem that we can use to balance scales. And to condense it all down, it is a money system. We're being driven into through our instinct to rush toward what empowers us in the season or in the cycle, in the end of the cycle where we are all fearing the loss of power, which I've touched on in other videos, and I hope I'm not losing people. That is the nature of the shadow. It's the fear of the loss of power is what animates the shadow. Fear of whatever strips us of power is what gives rise to the power of the shadow from our perspective, which manifests through other people, especially if we're psychic, if we have lots of water in our natal chart. But it's causing people, because of this empowered shadow, to meet the shadow with an equal and opposite reaction, and that is a mad rush toward what empowers us, and that is because of our conditioning. It's money. It's God, gold, and guns, right? But of that equation, all of those things have been capitalized on by a predatory system. And it all leads back to the same, If we're all agreeing that there is a shared resource that we all need to fight over or own more than others for whatever reason, then we are all agreeing on a binding ritual, a binding spell. That's what money is. That's what our commerce system is. So despite whether you're on the side of right or the side of wrong or good or evil or red or blue or gay, straights, Satanists, spiritualists, religionists, whatever, and you feel the need to fortify your sense of empowerment through, or to empower yourself through, if you feel the need to rush toward material things in this season, because of when we cross this grand conjunction, it marked a time where we were clearing old karma and moving into a new cycle. Everyone from this generation on, the decisions we make will lead us toward and our lineage from here on into a new phase of growth, and it's either related to the winter or the summer. And if it's the winter, it's into bondage. Unless you own major assets, and for a while you'll enjoy a bit of freedom, but those folk who own the most will find themselves eventually the most damned. And damned, by damned I mean the prevention of their soul's progress forward beyond the state of temporal awareness, bound to this reality. Digitized in forever consciousness, never dying. damned. Those folk will be the most damned, those who own the most, and find that their damnation will be the most complete. It'll last the longest and be the slowest. Those who are the slowest to get rid of that which damns them, and that is that which binds them, and through them which binds many, damning their lineage, damning their entire pattern of awareness from the seedling that is planted in this hour. And then having to move through 3 days or 3 cycles of the great year. 3 great days. 3 ages to reach the age, I believe, of either Scorpio or Libra, to rise back into the ages of the springtime. I'm not going to talk about how precession is a winding backward and a degradation of time. It's a sort of a reversal or contraction of awareness through the anus of time. Through purification. There are prophecies about there being a window for 7 days in this hour of a golden age. I believe I read about that recently, about some of the stories of Kronos and the technological golden age. There is a 7-day window for the golden age. And they're giving people who have the ability to leave this prison, this entrapment of consciousness, into a box through technology, kind of like Ghostbusters. It gives us the ability to escape that, to elevate the flesh. We're supposed to utilize gold, the properties of the noble metals of God's creation, to raise the electricity within us, within organic forms, that innately draws in the intelligence of the Creator. Anything harnessing the power of plasma is automatically in line. It's like the stronger plasma becomes, the more purified it becomes, the stronger its connection to the higher realms it grows. Fire is a gateway. That's why it doesn't cast a shadow. It's a physical, tangible thing, no doubt, and it serves as a gateway for consciousness or for attention to reach the higher realms. It's a focal point for light to dance between the realms, to move through a state of flux into a higher or a lower vibration. We're supposed to change the physics on this planet so that we can enjoy the true technological golden age, the real technology of the ancients. Flying saucers and things that a lot of these megalithic structures of the Hindu, in India, these ancient monuments were probably capable of flight. Their pillars resembled phase wave patterns. They resembled phi or a sine wave. Captured in the form of a rock pillar or a granite pillar, carved to look like a. Anyway, what I'm trying to. I tend to go way off, and that's part of my problem. In the time of Capricorncy, I being Cancer rising, this time marks a diminishing of how I appear to the collective. those who are Cancer rising, it's almost as if we disappear in the time of the winter, or an aspect of us fades away, even if it's beauty, or even if it's just our golden tan. The point is, it's difficult for me right now, and this is the time that these people with this technology who work in secret, who identify with the Hydra and the octopus and the Kraken and the darkness and the Ogdoad and and with frogs and with spiders or scorpions. These folk are at full power right now, and they are utilizing hyperphysics to attack the archetypes of Leo, which are tied to our vitality, tied to our joy, tied to our passion, tied to our sense of truth, our sense of innocence, tied to our good luck, our good nature, tied to our children, and what we enjoy spending our time doing, what we hold to be valuable or hold to be above what is earthly, set apart or sanctified, holy. They're attacking that by spraying the skies, by viruses, or by that symbolically represent the death of the sun, or even with gas station names that subconsciously teach us that we are trading the sun's power, which feeds the earth, which is stripped and harnessed and refined into gas, and then we give these gas stations names that symbolize that process, right? Sun Oko, the occultation of the sun. Am Oko. I don't know if that's reaching, but AM. When you look at a lot of these chevrons, these logos of these gas stations, don't they oftentimes resemble a starburst or a sunburst? But the irony of it is that there's an occultation of that energy and a drawing of it, a siphoning of it into a form of into something wasteful. It's ironic that we harness this resource from Gaia, and we feel it's our right, we're entitled to it, to mine the resource of Gaia to produce something wasteful. We've really lost touch with nature. We've lost touch with reality. We've lost touch with homeostasis, with what it means for nature to work in harmony. And these people who have given us this money system have taught us that this is the system of value that we need to uphold to maintain our way of living. And we've bought into this cancerous system. We're supposed to come out of that system. We're supposed to work to get out of it in this cycle, because this collective binding of people through this money system is a collectivizing of karma as well. We're being gathered by karma and bound by karma. When this social credit system comes, it will be sort of tethered to a collective karma. We'll damn each other. We'll judge each other. We'll hold each other in judgment and hold to an expectation of judgment that is acceptable to an intelligence that serves as a macrocosm for us. Serves as a macrocosm. We'll have to align with the judgment of whatever value system comes out of this social credit system. There's nothing more damning than that. That's damnation. That's group damnation. That's a collective karma. So we've been shedding our old karma in the old cycle. This grand conjunction comes in. People, release massive karma. People die. Other people experience it. inflammation abounds, and chronic illnesses abound. War jumps off, and there's just this massive release of heat in the storms, in the arguing, in the fluctuations in the market, and the changing seasons that transfer heat and power from one phase to another, shifting it from red, to blue, which then powers the winter, or powers the underdog, or empowers what strips life, or what saps heat, depletes heat of its source. It empowers darkness. This is a group damning, and these people know what they're doing. We're moving into an entire age where this becomes, we move it. I mean, it's as if we'll be. You look at the armor, they're developing. The Space Force, don't they remind you of insects? Police these days, don't they look like insects? And where are they feeding us now in the United Nations? Don't they want us to eat bugs? Excuse me, bugs. They want us to. You are what you eat, right? They don't care how we get there. They don't care whether you fear aliens or you fear your neighbor. Just make sure you got the money to take care of yourself. And if you don't, when the time comes, if you are those folk who can't get with the times, who can't jump into the Aquarian vibration to begin trading your capital for digital currency, then you will have not survived the crucible. And when the whole system of Hunger Games comes in and the social credit system comes in, those folk will probably be at the bottom of society, and that is a very dark place to be. And the whole place in reality is descending into a state where when we look back, will write of that time as a descent into hell. They describe the city of Dis, people entombed in these boxes where they're burning, spirits burning, entombed in stone. Consider Capricorn and Sagittarius. Consider the Matrix. Consider the images of the body that's grown in a tube, where the heat and the consciousness is siphoned, the awareness and the creativity of the creature is siphoned forever in a dream state, but it isn't even aware of its captivity or the limitation of its growth or options to make choices, and exists within a microcosm through the mind, tied to the light and shadow of all the other minds it's hyperlinked with in this virtual reality system, right? Painting a picture here to describe the nature of damnation, the nature of hell. It's symbolic. You have to interpret all these things symbolically, but we are descending into a form of hell because consciousness is falling deeper and deeper into a preoccupation with what is material, with what is in front of it, with what allows the body to continue consuming. But there is an ancient physics, which through prophecy is supposed to release us from that bondage. But we have to understand what to do with money. When they were talking about a golden calf, they were describing the nature of those who borrow the power created by pressure, which forms a torus, and electromagnetically animates current into motion, stirs current into motion. When there is a fracturing of pressures from, minus and plus signs, electrons and protons. When that's fractured and there's an iniquity between them, one chases the other for they're to it's seeking an equilibrium. Man chases woman, woman chases man. Need creates impetus, basically. And that relationship creates a sine wave. That is sin. That is the pressure creating a demand that causes heat to move in a way that it only makes things worse. It freezes things. It causes oxidation. It degrades things. Something is lost in the process. Alchemically, we can change that by those ancient physics. When we give this planet the proper magnetic torsion, or our bodies, or even our own bodies, the proper magnetic torsion, heat will not move in straight angles. It will move in circles. That's the whole idea. The torsion of energy was what all of the ancient societies were describing the secret in all of their physics. They took the triangle and they gave it torsion. The phase wave pattern, they tripled it and gave it torsion. And from the torsion of energy, the proper torsion of energy, there is less heat loss within the field. If its torsion is perfect, if its angular momentum is calibrated correctly. And that can be done when the field containing it is perfected. And then the vapor state that light dances through no longer produces illusions, but maintains the same intensity throughout the entire field. There are no shadows. There's only awareness. There's only light. There's only heat. Electricity dances through perfectly. That's what the Bible was talking about. Make a straight path for the Lord. It's electricity. We have to fill this place with humidity the right way. And we do that by perfecting the dying atmosphere that is permitting for pressure to move and shift the state from one place to another, and allowing vapor to strip heat through evaporative cooling from one body of water or one heated vessel to another. It's what air does. It atomizes heat, moves it, either chaotically or with order, but it moves it. That's the role of the gas state, the role of air in the occult. It's to just move what inspires, to give it purpose. I don't care what we call this thing we're all fighting, but let's just come together and figure out what to do about how we get our hands on the substance that will immunize us from these diseases they want to put out electromagnetically. We have to guard the body. We have to rebuild the temple, fortify the temple. We do that with colloidal gold, with the noble metals, with the perfected elements of the intelligent creator's material creation, which harnesses the power of electricity in a perfect way. We put those things into the body and create that natural marriage between us and the planet, so that we can turn our bodies into legitimate natural batteries which are powered directly by the sun. It's a circuit we're supposed to build. We do that with the noble metals, with gold. Alchemically, sure, there is a process alchemically, because these physics operate in the spirit as well as in the material world. There is a process alchemically where one achieves an inner world, an inner state of perfection, and works on the inner temple as well. Yes, there are many ways to attack this problem, but we are beings who, because of our contract here and our development here in this unique place, this on Gaia, where consciousness is supposed to unfold according to all of heaven's physics, are trying to give shape and definition to their majesty here in the earth. We have to set the conditions right here so that all of that majesty can take the proper shape here in this bubble, in this vapor bubble called Gaia. And again, we do that by putting the gold in our bodies and in the atmosphere. That's that ormus. That's what we have to do. That should be our focus. Whether we love each other or hate each other or distrust one another, I think our main focus should just be to start a talk about how we can use this money binding spell, this money ritual to gain access to, or the Aquarian internet, the power of Aquarius, to push a message about how we're supposed to utilize what's left of our resources while we still have access to them or the knowledge of them, to use them in a way that we there's that golden ark, that ark of the covenant. That's the secret of it. It's the golden state, not just of consciousness alchemically, but alchemically in a physical state. We're supposed to use the perfected element, which is gold, which is the philosopher's stone when we refine it the right way, and it actually captures plasma the right way. It becomes the fifth stage of elemental phases. From fire fluxed, air fractured, to fire to earth, which is form or the pattern, the geometric pattern, to air, which is the fractured or dielectric state, or the dipolarized state, to water, which is the condensed 90-degree angle state, giving order and logic and structure through the quadruplicity, and in marking the logic system of a cycle divided into 4 parts, or 4 seasons, 4 phases. That is the rule of water. That's fire, earth, air, water. And that's obviously Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. But then moving into Leo, the 5th state is where fire is born from water, or fire is infused into water, or fire in a pure state burns, but fire in a water state can be maintained. It's what's used to power the body, what's used to power life. It's blood, it's wine, it's whatever. Whenever you can harness the power of what animates or gives passion or force, and condense that into a liquid state. That is the 5th state of matter. It is fire that is born from water. That is the quality of Leo. Or one of the things it's trying to describe, and that is where the perfected state of matter, or quintessence, is born. Which, from there it moves into Virgo, which is the operation of the body and the perfect homeostasis and torsion for energy to complete work, the optimal resistance for work to be completed, and then into the rest of the zodiac. And that's just angular momentum and physics and all that stuff. And this is drawn out. I'm not even sure how long this video is now. I wanted to do an update. I wasn't sure really what I was supposed to talk about, but I have a lot to share, and a lot of people have questions about my motives, about my history, about my interests. I'm willing to share all those things. If you just ask me directly, honestly. I don't really like the indirect approach, but to be honest, I would choose another time where those things might become important. When the focus is not on the well-being of those who cannot defend themselves, or those who don't understand what's going on, or if it's coming to the defense of the weak or the victims. I see. I'm the guy in the Titanic who's the time jumper. Who is I'm not even sure if that's a good analogy, but if you could imagine someone who leaped back into time and discovered to his dismay that there was no way to prevent the wrecking of the Titanic, and so picked an incognito spot to just sort of watch the remaining hours of its, you know, general good-spiritedness and its triumph before it smashes the glacier. That's sort of my position. I see very far ahead and have seen these days. Even since very young, I had dreams of these days, and even of my relative destiny as a messenger or an incarnate who was supposed to be here to experience certain things, certain traumatic things, and have been prepared since very young for the trauma of the things that are coming. So that I can serve as a voice in the wilderness. Because, you know, I've sort of been here most of my life. But wilderness, it's just the place where life is bared, struggle is real. You don't get to rest. And if you do, you better have a damn good spot, you know? Predators are everywhere. A lot of people live here. Spiritually, this is, the spiritual wasteland. We live in the duat. We live in the place where souls are asleep and are technically damned, or in a state where they are on their way toward a state of permanent rest or damnation by their choices or lack thereof. We're sort of in that long line of souls awaiting judgment. Been here a very long time. It's a very, very long line, a very large area. It's neither light or dark here, and some souls are here and because of their past deeds or past life deeds maintain a certain level of recognition in this place. While there is time for souls to be recognized and enjoy the fruits thereof. But those choices and the identification of those things that once made us great will soon become the things that enslave us. To maintain that false self-image, to maintain that false sense of self-value through our worth, our capital gain, that will become the thing that enslaves us. There are some who are destined to overcome that, to escape that. If this makes any sense to you, which I hope it does, and chances are, if it does, you probably don't have a great deal of money, a great deal of capital. But I'm hoping that this message takes flight and it reaches the right people to catch fire. The time where we need direction the most, we need a collective message, one that inspires, that isn't tied to things that continually fix us on fear and things that never really bring us new answers. Answers that never really, that just lead to more questions or lead us constantly to fixate on things that just grab our attention and hold it fixed and in suspense. It's a black hole. That is the center of the octopus, this kraken, that is drawing all attention, all focus through polarity, through the shadow, into permanent powerlessness, or an age of powerlessness, an age of identification with a thing that is omnipotent and is all-powerful, and the recognition of our lack of power and our need to identify with a greater force. These folk have been waiting to give us this space force forever. It's been part of the whole point. That's the New World Order. That's what's coming. They'll roll it out softly, but they're so skilled with it. using quantum technology and artificial intelligence. They have agents everywhere, eyes everywhere, assessing everyone, and silencing them using astrological timing to impose pressure at times where it's greatest, or to relieve pressure at times when pressure has reached critical mass, and utilizing symbolic physics of the zodiac to enact these spells and these rituals through the direction of attention and the activation of sigils and symbols through like movies and Hollywood. They give birth through the subconscious to ideas that take root through the tapestry of creation, and manifest in ways that they have developed or have manufactured to store this attention, store this creativity, store this heat and this focus, to capture it and to breathe life into it. So then they've breathed life into all of the things that humanity is addicted to, that we find to be spellbinding. You know, the fabric of our wildest dreams, the subjects of our wildest dreams are all coming true. We're giving birth to all of the things that we all want to see, but they're really things that we identify with through our shadow. And this monolithic, this at the center of it all is simply it's a system that is intelligent, that realizes that it must impose or have a monopoly on pressure, to impose pressure or snatch it away to maintain itself. It's parasitic. They don't care who's right or wrong, as long as there is a monopoly on power. That's the system we're supposed to move away from. You know, help me, talk to me, help me move this message. Meet me on Facebook. My Facebook channel is Arcana of the Most High. I talk on a lot of topics there, and topics that some folk may find fascinating. But that's where I prefer to be reached, because it's there, or at least temporarily, where I can share ideas the easiest. I can pass along images to illustrate complicated ideas, and communicate through Messenger if need be. And I'm not worried about who's listening and who has access to the data. You know, if you're communicating through any intermediary, when your voice is made digital, there are systems that just listen to speech. You know, it passes through it, whether it's encrypted or not. There is a point where it becomes logical, where it has to be interpreted by the human psyche or a digital medium, and in doing so, it is detected. It's detected. It's understood. It's just digested by this artificial brain that exists in the digital ether. You're not hiding anything by trying to hide from, you got your virtual shield and people trying to encrypt their money. It's all tied to the same force, the same intelligence, the same vessel. And it's jealous because it doesn't understand how not to be. Again, Arcana of the Most High, and Arc Elf on Instagram. That's Elf, ELPH. Arc, ARC_Elf, ELPH on Instagram, or at least temporarily. I tend to change it from time to time. I think it's time to strike. We know enough of what what we should be afraid of, to act, to justify action. Talk to me. Let's not be so concerned with whether we are appearing to be the expert on the solution to, the I'm not sure what I'm really trying to say. I really don't wish to really drag this on any longer. I'm just saying that there are some people who would just they want to look like experts. They want to be the authority or or to look like the folks who understand the most what's really going on, and it isn't helping anything. It's not really helping anything. Who cares who knows more than the other, who's making more money than other folk, or really whether other folk are right or wrong, or whether they call a thing one by one name or another. I think we should try and just drop all of the arguments that aren't really helping, that aren't really solving the problem, and understanding the problem isn't really solving the problem either, oddly enough. Or the fixation on understanding, the fight to understand. There's always a fight, isn't there? As long as there's polarity, as long as there's a fight or a war for something, it's what's occupying everyone's attention, where they feel like they're justified in a fight to do something. Everybody's just fighting. So there's just a fight. And the system doesn't care, it just wants us all to fight. It all equates to the same thing. Time wasted, money spent, money needed. Until the age turns and, earth changes make it impossible for us to, or necessitate the crunch, the crackdown, the condensation of technology, the strengthening of technology, and the intensification of anything separates what is dense or what is from what is immaterial. Maybe I didn't say that right. Not immaterial, but what is capable of rising, or what is capable of being used as fuel. That rise in that intensification of pressure is dividing. It's causing a need. It's facilitating a need for technology to evolve in a way that further divides people. That forces us all down to the wire to say what we're really made of. This is Judgment Day. This is only the strong. That's what the winter is all about. Only the strong survive. How resilient are you, right? But the more resilient you are, it has to be at the cost of someone. And that's not the karma you want walking into this phase. There's a way for us to unbind ourselves, to untether ourselves from it, and to truly walk into a golden age. That's what I want to do. Help me.